Another weekend of rugby, another rugby championship complete, and as I record this, guys, 40 days, this is Sunday night New Zealand time, 40 days I just read till the Rugby World Cup. We're getting ever so closer, things are getting exciting, and welcome along to, well, my little weekend review of the rugby going-ons around the globe and the biggest and best of international test matches as we head towards Rugby World Cup 2015. And wow, what a weekend of results it was as well. Two massive upsets in the Rugby Championship and a real overall standard that was pretty poor throughout the whole competition, if I'm to be fairly brutal on that as well. Hopefully though, I would like to do a complete wrap of the Rugby Championship in another video, but for today, we will just be looking back at the last weekend, the couple of matches that have just taken place, and before we get into those, the Northern Hemisphere guys out there, you guys will be interested to know, if you don't already, that your World Cup warm-ups are well and truly underway. Ireland took on Wales in a bit of a quiet and a bit of a dull affair, really. It seemed the Irish getting up 35-21 to clean that match up quite easily. At one point there, it was a complete one-way traffic. Ireland were just dominating everything about that match. Wales did storm back a little bit. It was almost C teams against each other. It was really a World Cup build-up of the lowest standard you could possibly think of. But it's underway. We've got plenty more matches coming up in future for those World Cup build-ups, as well as the Currie Cup is kicked off and is underway. We have ITM Cup about to get underway as well, so plenty of rugby action, but the big ones over the weekend. The All Blacks travelled to Australia to face the Wallabies, and it was South Africa at home hosting the Argentinians. Two huge matches, and we'll start off with the first one from Saturday night. The Wallabies at home, and the match that decided the Rugby Championship and would decide whether the Bledisloe Cup would be alive for another week or not. So this match was a big one for the Wallabies. They were on equal points, and they had a chance here in Sydney. They're not easy beats by any standard, so they're definitely with a chance. And already, just a day after that match, we've already seen a huge amount of criticism to referees in both the New Zealand-Australia match and the South Africa-Argentina match as well. Wayne Barnes was the referee for the Australian-New Zealand match, and it was Romain Poit, if that's how you pronounce his name, the Frenchman who was in charge of the South African-Argentinian match. But, you know, that's beside the point. You get given the referee you're given. And this match between the Wallabies and the All Blacks was quite a messy start. Both sides really looked below par, and they were both very fast out of defence, and it made me question whether offside was even really a thing anymore, as both sides were so quick out of the line, so hard up against the back of that ruck. It didn't look like they were even really ever onside, and that applied for both teams, and really the whole match where it lasted the whole time. So the two open side flankers are what Australia went with in this match, and it's something I've been pretty interested to see all along, and it worked to an extent. I thought Pocock at number 8 was fantastic. He had a really good match, but Hooper, on the other hand, I thought was invisible. The Australian commentators were going on how brilliant he played, but I thought, in my opinion, he was rubbish. He was non-existent, he was invisible, he really very rarely impacted the match at all, and it was all Pocock. And if you had to pick a number 7 between the two of them, I would personally pick Pocock straight away for the Wallabies. Aaron Smith and the All Blacks were looking pretty good early on, and it was Smith who milked an early yellow card for Sekope Kepu, who was offside from a quick tap and blatantly tackling the man. And then that just starts me off on a whole completely new rant about yellow cards. I mean, I watched 3 matches, these 2 Rugby Championship games, and I watched 3/4 of the Wales and Ireland game, and it's just, how many yellow cards were in those 3 matches? I didn't count them all, but I'd say there was probably 2 or 3 in each game. That is just absurd. It was crazy. Sure, it just seems too easy that the cards are coming out of the pockets. Both referees in this match were just too easy, too happy to go straight to the card, and teams are too used to it, and it's almost the team that gets the yellow card is the team that lifts and becomes even better. So Kepu was off of a yellow card, and Australia, let's be fair, were looking absolutely dreadful. Nick Phibbs was, wow, he was so bad that if he just walked off the field, the Wallabies would have been better off. He was absolutely hamstringing their side. Foley was average at best. They just looked completely out of ideas straight away off the ball, and they were just kicking it away mindlessly because they didn't know what to do with the ball. And I thought, well, this is just a matter of time before this one blows out and the All Blacks will take control. About a quarter of an hour into the match, I noticed something that just made me shake my head with the Wallabies. Still attacking Rishi McCaw? Really? Still attacking him? I mean, come on. That was what you did in 1998. I mean, surely we've moved on from attacking McCaw off the ball on the side of rucks, kicking him in the head and punching him in the throat. I mean, come on, guys. This is ridiculous stuff. And I just thought that... just made me put my head in my hands and say rugby just hasn't grown up as a sport, and you just think you just get away with everything. You can't beat them into them. It was just pathetic stuff from the Wallabies, and it's the sort of thing that I think could cost the Wallabies a Rugby World Cup time with Will Skelton and players like that getting just too easy to get under their skin. But that's all right. We moved on from that, and I just think that's just pathetic stuff that doesn't have a place in rugby, whether it be McCaw or anyone else in world rugby. Not just him, it happens all the time, but just seems to be Quade Cooper did it years ago. It was such an iconic thing. It's just silly sort of stuff like that. But we moved on with the match, and the Wallabies just looked horrible. You know, Phibbs, as I mentioned, was rubbish. The All Blacks were absolutely pinning down Drew Mitchell with high balls, and he was having a real struggling chance. And then something just happened where, half an hour into the game, the Wallabies created a huge opportunity to score a try. Once again, an absolute abysmal pass from Phibbs after a massive break from Israel Folau. Just bombed it straight to a no-one pass, fumbled, knocked on, and just chance after chance ruined by Phibbs just flinging the ball out any which way he pleased without really looking as to where the ball was going. Hooper, as I mentioned before, was ineffective. The All Blacks were dominating the match throughout, and it just seemed a matter of time until the All Blacks were going to just take the match and just completely control it. Even though they weren't dominating every aspect of the game, they were sitting off every single breakdown, every single ruck. Australia would hammer on in, and the All Blacks would just dedicate one or two men and not even really compete, even on their own ball. The match did strike me as a bit strange. The Wallabies were pretty lucky. Up front, the lineouts, the All Blacks did definitely dominate when it come to lineout time, and at half-time the score was just 6-3. Which, 6-3, and what a horrific match, and just to get no points like that, a couple of penalties to one penalty, it was just a strange game, and just, what were the All Blacks doing? They weren't playing typically to their game plan. We get into the second half with a pathetic scoreline like that, and then Aaron Smith gets a yellow card for a high shot. Fair enough, it was a high tackle and sure, but another yellow card. I don't know what I was thinking. Just yellow cards were flying out the pocket everywhere. Sekope Kepu got revenge for his yellow card as he just, scored a try that a back would be quite pleased with, straight through between two defenders. Looks very, very charismatic as he flew through, scored a brilliant try. And Australia, I thought they were in control, and as it turned out, they really were, but it didn't look like it on the field because Phibbs was still throwing the ball left, right, and centre and was going nowhere near his support. Gitto's kicking was fairly poor in the first half as well, as he took over the duties from Bernard Foley. And then the Australians seen the whole forward pack with the domination that they were getting at the rucks because the All Blacks just weren't throwing any men into the ball. Every Australian forward was a number 7, and they were just going for the ball at every single opportunity. And I was just thinking to myself at that point, what is the game plan here for the All Blacks? Are they looking to play a game where they're on the back foot and they're looking to preserve time or something? I think they had something bigger in store and in their mind as a game plan, but it just did not come off. And Australia started to make changes, which is when the game changed, and I thought, probably one of the best players for Australia in the Rugby Championship, Matt Toomua, come on the field. And apart from his haircut, which is absolutely dreadful, I mean, if he could get a worse haircut, it probably wouldn't exist. But that's irrelevant to the point. He come on, and I think that definitely lifted the Wallabies. Dan Carter nailed another penalty goal, and he became the first player in Test match history to get to 1,500 Test points, which is fantastic. Congratulations to Daniel Carter. Hopefully he's got a few more points in him over the next couple of months. The All Blacks defence started to pick up after that, and this is where I think after that point that the All Blacks really dominated this match for the first time completely. The yellow card for Phibbs, which is just a stupid yellow card. Number 3 of the match, may I remind you. Number 3 of the match. Unbelievable, to 3 yellow cards. So Phibbs got sent for 10. Offside tackle. I don't even really know exactly what happened there, because things are just, it was just getting absurd what was happening out there. It was about 20 minutes to go, and there was a huge momentum change in the match, and that's when we seen Milner Scudder score a fantastic try, which, wow, how good was there, Milner Scudder? He was elusive throughout that match, and it's the first time I mentioned him, but he was the best player in a black jersey. He was hard to tackle, he was slippery, he was quick, he was elusive, and he deserved the 2 tries he eventually got in the match. So that was great. It was built up beautifully from Carter, who made some great decisions as well to hold the ball and then offload to Ben Smith, who put Milner Scudder away in the corner. So it was fantastic. Milner Scudder, I think, like I said on Twitter to some of you guys, book him a plane ticket to England. That number 14 jumper is pretty much his as well, if he can keep up form like we've seen with him against the Wallabies in the weekend. Australia's play after the hour mark was starting to get a bit fishy. They're running decoys everywhere. I was starting to query what exactly the ref was watching, and some of the calls started to get a bit weird, started to get a bit funny, started to not really understand what he was penalising both sides for, and giving away, you know, penalties for silly things that were completely irrelevant. I kind of lost way with what Wayne Barnes was thinking, and he was missing obvious things as well. Decoy runners in front of the ball carrier, creating spaces. It was just a horrible little portion of the match where, again, the momentum changed big time when Adam Ashley Cooper got a beautiful try from the kick. It was a sensational try. It caused an injury to Ben Smith, which I haven't heard personally what exactly is wrong with him, but hopefully it's not too bad for Ben Smith. After that, Australia, they just got their tails up, and the match just seemed to fly on after that. Nick White got a try again from a mistake by the All Blacks. Things are starting to get worse and worse, and the luck was just flying out towards the green and golds, and made me think maybe all the luck from the Australian cricket side and the Ashes had been absorbed, because it was pretty clear they got no luck getting rolled for 60. That maybe as the Wallabies are stealing all their luck and using it for the Rugby Championship, but I hope they've got enough to last them till the end of October, because they're going to need it, because neither team really played that well. That was the story of the whole Rugby Championship. Neither side playing very good, and it makes you wonder when the World Cup comes along. I don't think the Northern Hemisphere sides are going to be too concerned. In the end, the match dribbled out to a tame finish, and the Australians won the match and won the Rugby Championship as well, keeping the Bledisloe Cup alive for the second leg at Eden Park next weekend. 27-19 the final score, and, well, what can you call that match? I don't know if I'd really call it a good game. It was different. It was very topsy-turvy. Both sides had huge advantages at times, huge momentum shifts that neither really took the chances that they really should have, that you'd expect them to. So it was a messy match, an ugly match, but a great win for the Wallabies, and they'll take huge confidence heading into the World Cup with that behind them. From the Wallabies, what I was expecting to witness, what I was wanting to see how they went about was the back row for sure. It was the mum and Horwell, which I think went very well. I think Pocock is definitely their best number 7. The form of Phibbs and Foley, we answered a big question there. They were absolutely horrible, which that question got answered very quickly. The other question at Gitto, he was indifferent but come good at the end. He still got the talent and the skill. The Australian pack, is it up to the task? That's the question, against an informed Argentina like we saw against South Africa could be the big task for them. But all in all, we learnt a lot from that game. I think the All Blacks learned a lot. I think they're holding a lot back as well. But congratulations to the Wallabies. They got the job done, and they are the champions of the Rugby Championship. So that was match 1, done and dusted. A strange match, a weird match, but it was about to get even weirder as South Africa and Argentina kicked things off. And before the game even really started, I think it was a minute 20 or something into the game, and bang, Marcelo Bosch was over for the opening try. And as I just put a bet on for the Argentinians to score 2 tries, and the match, I was pretty happy. There was half of it done inside the first 2 minutes. It went on from there, though, as Juan Martin Hernandez, the man I spoke of in the preview of this match, is the one who's going to spark this Argentinian backline. Well, did he ever? I didn't quite expect it to go that well for him, but he was magical. He was absolutely magical, and he led that Argentinian side around like a magician. He was brilliant, and it looks like a hard way back now for Sanchez if he's going to dislodge Hernandez after that performance. An instant impression, he looked brilliant. Argentina dominated everything forward orientated as well, whether it be the rucks and the breakdowns, the scrums, the lineouts, anything at all, you name it, the Argentinians dominated him. Hernandez, once again, the match wore on, he just got better and better. He missed a couple of kicks, which is probably the only thing that could really put an X next to his name about. But then he created probably one of the great tries of Argentinian rugby as they just continued to dominate. Juan Imhoff scored one for Argentina, but it was all created from Juan Martin Hernandez, who was looking great at that point. I've said it about 4 times already, but he was really a one-man team, and everyone knew what to do. That's what they've missed, I think, over the last couple of weeks. I've mentioned, Sanchez just didn't give them the direction. Juan Martin Hernandez did exactly that, and that was the difference in this match for the Argentinians. A scrum feed, and once again, Argentina were in. Juan Imhoff scoring another brilliant try from the set piece. Argentina were looking brilliant. They were fantastic, and they were dominating every facet of the game. South Africa just looked completely bamboozled as to what was going on. They did get one back through Diego, who scored a great line-out set play, just stretching over like we've seen him do against the All Blacks a few weeks before, where he was just a centimetre or 2 short. Now he got it all the way, and that kind of gave them a bit of incentive back into the match for the South Africans, but it didn't last long as Argentina just continued to absolutely destroy their scrum, destroy every play in the forwards, which was just ruining the Springboks' night. At the end of the first half, it was Marcelo Bosch who scored a penalty from halfway, and it was just absolute stunning kick. I've never seen many kicks like that have gone over with such continuative ease. What a stunner from Marcelo Bosch. South Africa were having problems though. They were kicking aimless ball away. They weren't looking very in control of the match at all. Argentina were just dominating everything. Into the second half, and well, what will be talked about is the controversial moment for quite some time. Juan Imhoff scoring his hat-trick try. Wow, how often, who would have thought this? Imhoff to score a hat-trick. It was a fantastic try, but no one was really paying attention because half of the team was down injured. There was medics everywhere around the field. No one really knew that time was back on. It was a quick tap, and Imhoff will score. You look back at the replay, the ref did call time on. It was a fair try, but once again, controversy blamed directly at the ref. But it didn't end there though. There was plenty more controversy to come. The South Africans were really starting to lose control after that even more. They were just falling apart completely. They looked completely out of ideas. Henry Pollard, as well as he did play, he just had no answer to what the Argentinians threw at him. They got messy, they got desperate, and then they scored something stunning. Vinny LaRue scored a long-range, brilliant try, all made by the running of Jesse Kriel. It was a great try, and it gave them some self-belief back, and they could get back into this match. But you just didn't see the Argentinians letting anything up with their forward dominance, and as long as they had that, it looked like Argentina would control this game and that South Africa would always struggle to find a way back in. It was 100% domination. I don't think South Africa really took control in any aspect of the forward play. Marcelo Bosch chimed in with a drop goal. That was just typical of Marcelo Bosch. Dropped it on his boot, turned around and walked away, knowing that was going over long before it was even halfway to the posts. Hernandez still was king of the match. He was still brilliant late on in the second half, but then the South Africans started to come in with their own play with the change of Patrick Lambie coming onto the field. I think that did lift them a bit and gave them a bit more creativity, whether it was just the fresh legs and the fresh mind or whether Pollard was just out of his depth in that match. The Argentinians still controlled every aspect of the game. Later on though, in the second half, controversy continued as a try was scored by Renak. It looked like it was scored, a quick tap, and he burrowed over in the midst of about 3 or 4 tacklers. It went up to the TMO. Now this is what I was really confused about here. The tap, he went through, grounded the ball, that's a try. I don't think the ref should be allowed to call this back on the TMO and say he took it from the wrong mark, which is what he said. He said the tap was taken, not on the mark. That is something he should have called as soon as the tap was taken. He shouldn't award the try and say, yeah, let's go upstairs and have a look and then go all the way back to the tap. That doesn't happen. You should only be able to judge on things like touchline and grounding. That's about it. You know, things like that. That was just absurd that was allowed to go back to have a look at the tap. That was just horrible. So that just really killed off the South Africans, although they did at the end come in and score a late try to Brian Habana. That was after another yellow card, this time Pablo Matera getting yellow for a high shot, Brian Habana scoring with just a couple of minutes to go. It was a fantastic game for the neutral fan, which from my perspective it was a neutral fan viewing, but you got a feel for the South Africans. Argentina just clicked and they were just unstoppable and like I've said after that match, so I don't think it would have mattered who Argentina was against because they played that well and dominated their areas that well that they would have beaten, I think they would have beaten any side on that night, no matter where in the world. If they can play like that in a World Cup semi or quarter-final, wherever they get to, they could upset one of the top tier 1 sides if they can pull out a match like that. I mean, Creevy was fantastic. Ihertza was fantastic. Lavanini in the second row was brilliant. Kubeli, scrum half, was brilliant. Leguzamon as well as Senatore. I think they missed Senatore at number 8. What did the Argentinians? Kubeli, fantastic. Hernandez was brilliant as well. And, you know, the back line, won him off. He's a finisher, and that's what he got the opportunity to do as well. In the centres, Marcelo Bosch. He's solid. He just does what he does, Marcelo Bosch. And the final score in that one was 37-25. Argentina with the win. That capped off a brilliant game for the Argentinians. What we were watching, you know, from that was really the big thing was Hernandez. He was the big one. Can he change the side of Argentina? That's what he did, and he was very much successful. The other thing I was interested in watching from that game was whether the forward pack would be good enough and finally show their potential that they can dominate with, and they did exactly that, which was very pleasing to see as well. As for South Africa, it's all doom and gloom for them, really. 3 losses from 3 matches. They've finished bottom of the table in the Rugby Championship. Just unbelievable season from them. They've looked good though, and they've lost all their games for just a couple of points as well. It's been, oh, what a season. What a season of just dreadful rugby it's been as well. Probably one game, All Blacks in South Africa, was probably the only game that really lived up to the hype of the Rugby Championship. Other than that, I can see England, Ireland will be sitting in their little office chairs saying, yeah, we're in for a chance, boys, we're in for a chance. These Southern Hemisphere sides don't look too good, but then again, how much are they holding back for Rugby World Cup 2015? We will be able to answer those questions in the future, but for now, that is my time done and dusted. A quick look back at the weekend's rugby. We have more coming up as well with the return matches from last weekend. We'll have them again next weekend with Australia coming to New Zealand, and Argentina will be at home versus South Africa, as well as World Cup warm-up matches going on around the globe as well. Plenty of rugby coming your way, so stick around and stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning into this little review of the weekend's rugby, and I will see you all again next time. But until then, thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe if you're enjoying these little discussion videos, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.